The rain-slicked streets of Manhattan gleamed under the sodium lamps like veins pulsing with secrets, and I stood frozen in the doorway of our loft, the takeout bag slipping from my numb fingers to splatter pad tie across the hardwood. Jordan's voice, low and laced with that polished edge he saved for boardrooms, sliced through the phone line from the next room. "Look, Mom, Alex is just a phase, some experiment before I settle down with someone real, someone who fits the family." My world cracked open right there, a chasm swallowing 3 years of whispered promises and stolen weekends. And before the echo of his words could fade, I was already grabbing my keys, vanishing into the storm without a backward glance. That night blurred into a haze of Greyhound buses and half-remembered diners, carrying me west until the skyscrapers gave way to the flat, unforgiving sprawl of Omaha, Nebraska, a place I'd sworn I'd never return to, the small-town ghost that had chased me to New York in the first place. I crashed on the lumpy couch of my old college buddy Mike, a guy who'd stuck around after graduation to run his dad's auto shop, his easy grin the only anchor in the freefall of my unraveling life. "Dude, you look like hell," he said that first morning, handing me a mug of black coffee that tasted like regret. "Spill it, or I'll assume it's aliens." I laughed, a brittle sound that scraped my throat, and for the first time since bolting, the truth clawed its way out. Jordan, the golden boy lawyer with the corner office dreams, had sold me out to his family like I was yesterday's news. Mike's face hardened, his jaw ticking in that protective way he had, but he didn't push. Instead, he clapped a hand on my shoulder and muttered, "Stay as long as you need. We're family here, man, blood or not." Omaha wrapped around me like a scratchy blanket, familiar and stifling all at once. The air smelled of cornfields and engine grease, a far cry from the exhaust-tinged buzz of the city that had felt like home until it didn't. I took odd jobs to keep the demons at bay, freelance graphic design for local breweries, sketching logos that popped with neon flare against the muted Midwest palette. Nights, though, were the killers. I'd lie awake in Mike's spare room, the walls papered in faded Metallica posters from our wilder days, replaying that phone call like a looped nightmare. Just a phase. The words burrowed deeper each time, twisting into questions I couldn't answer. Had our late-night talks about adopting kids someday been lies? Were the tattoos we'd inked on each other, matching compass roses on our inner wrists, symbols of finding north in each other, now just ironic scars? Mike noticed the shadows under my eyes, the way I'd flinch at my phone's buzz, and he dragged me out to the dive bars on Dodge Street, where the jukebox wailed country anthems, and the crowd was a mix of roughnecks and quiet queers nursing their PBRs. It was on one of those nights, 3 weeks in, that Sarah called. My old roommate from the village, a fierce lesbian with a buzz cut and a laugh like thunder, her voice crackled through the line like static from a storm front. "Alex, you ghosting everyone? Jordan's losing his shit. Shows up at the apartment every night like a kicked puppy, then vanishes into his work. What's going on?" I paced the kitchenette, the linoleum cool under my bare feet, glancing at Mike, who was elbow-deep in a carburetor at the table, pretending not to eavesdrop. Sarah and I had bonded over bad takeout and worse exes back in New York. She'd been the one to shove me toward Jordan at that Pride after-party 2 summers ago, whispering, "He's got that quiet fire. Go stoke it." Now, her worry felt like a lifeline I wasn't ready to grab. "He betrayed me, Sar," I said finally, voice cracking on the edge of the sink. "Overheard him telling his mom I'm not real. I'm done." There was a pause, heavy as the humidity rolling in from the plains, and then she sighed. "Babe, you know Jordan's folks are old-school Catholics from Connecticut. He's fighting them every step. But, okay, your call. Just don't fade out on us." We hung up, and Mike looked up, grease-streaked and solemn. "You gonna tell me the full story someday?" I nodded, but the words stuck, lodged like gravel in my chest. Days bled into weeks, the rhythm of Omaha settling into my bones despite myself. I started helping at the shop, not just with designs, but actual grunt work. Hosing down engines, balancing tires, the physical ache a welcome distraction from the emotional one. Mike's crew was a ragtag family. Lena, the trans mechanic with tattoos snaking up her arms like vines, who shared stories of her transition over greasy lunches. And Tomas, the straight-laced accountant who moonlighted as a drag king, his deadpan humor cutting through the shop's banter like a well-timed punchline. They didn't pry, but they folded me in, inviting me to their potlucks where potato salad fought for space with Lena's experimental vegan tacos. It was at one of those gatherings, crammed into Mike's backyard under string lights that flickered like fireflies, that I felt the first crack in my armor, a tentative sense of belonging that didn't hinge on Jordan's approval. But belonging came with its own ghosts. I'd catch myself tracing the compass rose on my wrist, wondering if he was doing the same in that sterile loft, or if he'd scrubbed it clean. Meanwhile, back east, Jordan was unraveling threads I couldn't see. He told himself it was the workload at the firm, billable hours stacking like Jenga blocks, depositions that dragged into dawn, but the truth was sharper, a blade twisting in his gut every time he unlocked the door to silence. The apartment reeked of absence, my sketchpads abandoned on the coffee table, the fridge stocked with his kale smoothies, but none of my beloved leftover pizza experiments. He'd replayed that phone call 1,000 times, cursing the cowardice that had spilled out when his mother cornered him about the future. It wasn't a betrayal, not really. He'd been buying time, shielding Alex from the full force of his family's bigotry until he could muster the courage for a clean break. But explanations meant nothing without the man who'd heard only the lie. Jordan threw himself into cases, winning settlements for underdogs in discrimination suits, channeling his rage into justice for others while his own life frayed. Late nights, he'd scroll through Alex's dormant socials, the last post a goofy selfie from their anniversary hike in the Catskills, both grinning like idiots with the Hudson Valley sprawling behind them. "Where are you?" he'd whisper to the screen, the words dissolving into the hum of the city outside. Sarah became his reluctant informant, cornered over coffee at their favorite spot in Chelsea. "He's gone dark, Jordan." Radio silence. Her eyes, sharp as ever, pinned him like a deposition witness. "What the hell did you say to him?" He confessed in halting bursts, the words tasting like ash, the phase comment, the deflection to his mom about settling down with someone who fits. Sarah's laugh was bitter, devoid of humor. "Jesus, you're an idiot. Alex idolized you, the guy who marched in the Pride Parade last year, who donated half his bonus to the Trevor Project. And you pull this." Jordan flinched, the truth landing like a gavel. He'd always been the strategist, plotting career moves like chess, but love had blindsided him, exposed the fractures from a childhood spent hiding in prep school closets. "I need to find him," he said, voice steadying into resolve. "Legally, if I have to." Sarah arched a brow. "You're a corporate shark, not a PI. But, yeah, for what it's worth, I think he still loves you. Just hurts too much right now." That night, Jordan dusted off his law school research skills, pulling strings at the firm for discreet inquiries, bus manifests, credit card pings, anything to trace the man who'd slipped through his fingers like smoke. In Omaha, the first whisper of pursuit came unexpectedly, a letter forwarded from New York, crisp envelope bearing the return address of Jordan's firm. My hands trembled as I slid it open in the shop's break room, the air thick with the tang of motor oil. It wasn't a plea, but a subpoena, subtle, wrapped in legalese about a joint lease dispute, demanding my appearance in Manhattan court. Bullshit, of course. We both knew the lease was ironclad. It was a Hail Mary, a legal tether to reel me back. Rage flared hot and immediate, mingling with the ache I'd tried to bury. "He's playing dirty," I muttered to Lena, who peered over my shoulder with a whistle. "Lawyer X's are the worst. Want me to shred it?" Tempting, but I folded it away, the paper crinkling like accusations. That evening, over beers on Mike's porch, I finally unloaded the whole saga. The courtship in rain-drenched Central Park, the quiet domesticity of Sunday brunches, the way Jordan's touch had felt like home after years of feeling adrift. Mike listened, his usual quips silenced, and when I finished, he leaned back, cracking his knuckles. "Sounds like love to me, man. Messy as hell, but real. Question is, you gonna let one overheard convo torch it all?" His words hung in the twilight, stars pricking the Nebraska sky like hesitant confessions. The subpoena sat on my nightstand like a ticking bomb, its presence coloring every interaction. I threw myself into a big design gig for a local queer youth center, pouring heartbreak into vibrant murals of intertwined hands and rainbow horizons, the work of catharsis that left paint under my nails and hope in my veins. The center's director, a no-nonsense dyke named Riley with silver streaks in her braids, pulled me aside after a volunteer shift. This stuff? It's got soul, kid. You pouring your own story in there. I shrugged, but her knowing nod cut through. Omaha's queer scene was smaller than New York's, more insular, but it pulsed with the same fierce loyalty. Game nights at the community house, where Tomas emceed trivia with drag flair, or support groups where stories of rejection echoed my own. It was there, in a circle of folding chairs under fluorescent hum, that I met Kai, a soft-spoken non-binary artist fresh from art school, their sketches of fractured hearts mirroring my own. We bonded over charcoals and chai, a gentle friendship blooming without the weight of romance, a reminder that connection didn't always demand surrender. But Jordan's shadow loomed larger with each passing day. Sarah texted sporadically, updates laced with tough love. He's a wreck, Alex. Barely eating. Won a huge case today, didn't even celebrate. Guilt gnawed at me, warring with the betrayal scar tissue. One night, after a particularly raw group session where someone shared about parental denial, I cracked open my laptop and typed Jordan's name into a search bar, the results flooding like a breach. Articles on his pro bono work for LGBTQ+ asylum seekers, a profile praising his unwavering advocacy. The man I'd loved was still there, fighting battles I'd once dreamed of joining. My finger hovered over the call button, heart hammering, but I closed the tab instead, slamming the laptop shut like sealing a vault. Across the miles, Jordan escalated, his firm's resources bending to his will. Private investigators turned up breadcrumbs, a bus ticket to Omaha, freelance invoices stamped with Nebraska IPs. He's there, he told Sarah over a hurried lunch, fork stabbing at his untouched salad. Hiding with that college friend, Mike something. Excitement warred with dread. What if Alex slammed the door in his face? What if the wound was too deep? Jordan's partner at the firm, Elena, a sharp-witted ally who'd mentored him through his first outing at the office holiday party, noticed the distraction. This about that boyfriend who bolted? She asked bluntly during a late-night strategy session. He nodded, and to his surprise, she slid a card across the desk for a therapist specializing in queer relationships. Fix your head first, Jordan. Then go get him. Her pragmatism was a lifeline, and for the first time, he scheduled the appointment, unpacking the layers of internalized shame from his upbringing, the boarding school whispers, the father's golf course jokes about real men. The therapist's office smelled of chamomile and possibility, a far cry from the mahogany-scented boardrooms. Betrayal feels absolute, Dr. Reyes said, her voice steady as she leaned forward. But context can rewrite the narrative. What was he protecting? Jordan grappled with it, the session unspooling threads of fear, his promotion hinging on the firm's conservative old guard, the family estate that came with strings of tradition. I was scared, he admitted, the words raw. But losing him? That's the real terror. Armed with that clarity, he booked a flight to Omaha, the subpoena a feint now discarded for direct confrontation. No more games, just truth, laid bare. Back in the shop, autumn leaves skittered across the lot like warnings, and I found myself sketching compulsively, Jordan's profile against the skyline, his laugh lines etched in pencil strokes. Kai noticed during our next coffee run, their eyes gentle behind wire-rimmed glasses. Still carrying him, huh? That's not vanishing. That's haunting yourself. Wise words from someone half my age, but they landed. Mike, ever the rock, suggested a road trip to clear my head. Up to the sandhills, where the prairie stretched endless and unjudging. We loaded the truck with coolers and guitars, the drive a bomb of classic rock and bad jokes. Under a blanket of stars that first night, campfire crackling, Mike turned serious. You know, I came out to my folks' senior year. Dad walked out for a month, thought I'd ruined everything. But he came back, Alex. Love's not a straight line. His vulnerability cracked something in me. Tears hot on my cheeks as I confessed the subpoena, the pull still tugging at my edges. What if he's changed? Mike shrugged. Only one way to know. The morning we returned, my phone lit up with an unknown number, Jordan's voice on the voicemail like a thunderclap. Alex, I'm here. At the shop. Please, just talk to me. Heart in my throat. I drove back alone, the streets blurring as resolve hardened. He stood by the bay doors, suit rumpled from travel, eyes shadowed but fierce. You came. I said, voice barely above the rumble of an idling engine. Had to. That call. It wasn't what you think. We stared across the lot, the air charged with unsaid years, and in that suspended moment, the chasm between us felt bridgeable. If only we'd both reach. The confrontation unfolded in halting steps, Jordan's hands shoved deep in his pockets, as if to keep from reaching out too soon. "Can we walk?" he asked, nodding toward the rail yard tracks snaking behind the shop, where freight cars rusted under the weak November sun. I hesitated, the compass on my wrist itching like a fresh bruise, but nodded. We moved in silence at first, gravel crunching underfoot, the distant wail of a train underscoring the tension. Omaha's industrial edge felt worlds away from our Greenwich Village haunts. Yet here we were, two men who'd built a life on borrowed time, now facing the wreckage. "I flew commercial," he said finally, a ghost of his wry humor surfacing. "Elena, my partner, said first class was for closers, and I'm not closing this." I snorted, the sound surprising me, but it cracked the ice. Subpoena was a low blow, counselor. He winced, stopping to lean against a chain-link fence rattling in the wind. Desperate times. Look, that night, Mom was pushing about grandkids, the family legacy bullshit. I panicked. Said you were a phase to shut her down, buy us space. It was cowardice, Alex, pure and simple. Protecting my career, my inheritance, whatever lie I told myself. But never you. His eyes, that impossible hazel flecked with gold, held mine, raw and unguarded. The apology hung there, heavy as the freight cars looming nearby, and I wanted to believe it. God, how I did. But the hurt had roots too deep. "A phase," I echoed, voice sharp. 3 years, Jordan. Vacations in Provincetown, that tattoo parlor in Brooklyn where we laughed until we cried. And I'm a goddamn experiment. He stepped closer, the fence creaking under his weight. "No, you're my north. Always have been." I was the one lost, hiding from my own truth. We walked on, the confession unspooling like a depositions tape. He told me about the firm, the subtle homophobia in partner meetings, the client who pulled funding after learning about his orientation. I thought if I played straight with the family, I could shield us. Stupid, I know, but every win I rack up now, it's for us, for the life we talked about. Tears pricked my eyes, the wind whipping them away, and I shared my own unraveling. The bus ride's terror, Omaha's hesitant embrace, the friends who'd stitched me back together. "Mike's like a brother," I said. "Lena, Kai, they see me, no strings." Jordan nodded, a flicker of jealousy crossing his face before softening into respect. "I'm glad. You deserve that." At the end of the tracks, where the prairie butted against the city, we sat on a weathered bench, shoulders brushing in that old, electric way. "I miss you," he whispered, and the dam broke, words tumbling, laughs mingling with sobs, the air between us thawing. But reconciliation wasn't a straight shot. Misunderstandings lingered like fog. Back at the shop, Mike sized Jordan up over oil-stained hands, his protective stance clear. "Hurt him again, lawyer boy, and you'll need more than billable hours to fix it." Jordan took it in stride, offering a handshake that turned into a back-slapping bro hug, the two of them bonding over bad college stories, while Lena smirked from the lift. Sarah called that night, her voice a mix of relief and scolding. "About time, you idiots. But if I hear one more drama fest, I'm disowning both." Jordan crashed on the couch, our first night under the same roof since the vanishing feeling like a tentative truce, talking until dawn about everything and nothing, his hand finding mine across the coffee table. Words spread through the grapevine, ripples hitting New York's queer circles like stones in a pond. Elena emailed Jordan a firm-wide memo on inclusive policies, her subtle nudge toward coming out fully. His mother, sensing the shift in his calls, cornered him during a tense Thanksgiving Zoom from Connecticut, her face pinched with unspoken fears. "This Alex boy, is he staying?" Jordan straightened, the compass tattoo flashing under his cuff. "He's not a boy, Mom. He's my partner." And yes, the line went silent, then cracked with a sigh. "Bring him next year. We'll figure it out." It wasn't absolution, but a door cracking open, prejudices bending under the weight of love's insistence. In Omaha, I introduced Jordan to the center, his legal brain lighting up at the funding gaps. "I can help," he said, drafting pro bono contracts over takeout Thai that tasted like home. Kai and I collaborated on a mural for the youth program. Jordan posing as an accidental model, his suit jacket slung over a ladder while he bantered about case law. Friendships wove tighter. Mike invited him to poker nights, where Tomas cleaned us out with bluffing skills honed in drag shows. Lena schooled him on engine basics, her laughter booming as he fumbled a wrench. But beneath the ease, tensions simmered. Jordan's job pulling him east with depositions, my freelance gigs rooting me west. Long distance, I asked one night, tangled in the spare bed sheets, his breath warm against my neck. Temporary, he murmured. I'm applying for transfers. Or we meet in the middle, Chicago maybe? The first real test came mid-December, a surprise visit from Jordan's sister, Claire, a bubbly straight woman who'd always been the family's golden child, oblivious to the undercurrents until now. She arrived unannounced at the shop, all designer boots and Connecticut polish, hugging Jordan stiffly before turning to me with wide eyes. So you're the infamous Alex. He won't shut up about you. We took her to a local diner, the formica tables sticky with history, and over pie, the awkwardness bloomed. Claire grilled gently about our meeting, the vanishing, her questions laced with the family's casual judgments. Mom's worried about the optics, you know? Firm partners, social circles. Jordan's hand tightened on mine under the table, his voice steel. Optics be damned, Claire. This is us. She softened, sharing her own divorce scars, admitting the family's facade hid cracks. I want you both happy, even if it's messy. By dessert, she'd pulled out her phone, scrolling baby pics of her kid, the ice fully broken. As winter deepened, the drama crested in unexpected waves. A tabloid snippet from New York's Gossip Mills hit, some ex-client outing Jordan's personal life in a bitter review, whispers of his sexuality tanking a deal. He flew back furious, the call stormy. It's fallout from the lies, Alex. But I'm done hiding. I heard the resolve. The fear threaded through, and booked a flight without thinking, landing in JFK amid swirling snow. The apartment felt haunted, sketches still scattered, but we rebuilt in fits. Cooking disasters that ended in laughter, walks in the fresh powder where he proposed a joint therapy session, unpacking the betrayal's layers with Dr. Reyes via video. Communication isn't a deposition, she chided gently. It's vulnerability. Omaha pulled two, a queer film fest inviting my designs for posters. Jordan tagging along incognito and flannel, blending with the crowd like he'd always belonged. There, amid screenings of stories mirroring our own, lovers divided by secrets, reunited through grit. We stole kisses in the back row, the screen's glow forgiving old shadows. But prejudice reared its head closer to home when Mike's dad, visiting from the farm, overheard Tomas's drag tales and grumbled about that lifestyle stuff. Mike shut it down fierce, defending his chosen family, and Jordan jumped in with legal facts on equality, turning gruff skepticism into grudging respect over backyard burgers. The climax hit like a prairie twister, swift and unforgiving. Jordan's firm offered the promotion, a partnership track, but with a catch. Lead counsel on a case defending a conservative client against discrimination claims, the irony bitter. Take it, I urged over a crackling line, heart twisting. Fight from inside. He agonized, pacing the loft, then called back, resigned. Starting my own practice, queer-focused, pro bono heavy. With you, if you'll have me. Shock rippled through me, joy laced with terror at the leap. I flew east again, the decision crystallizing mid-flight. We'd relocate to a midpoint city, build from scratch. The goodbye to Omaha was a tear-streaked potluck, Mike's toast slurring through emotion. To new chapters, and the assholes who make 'em worth it. Spring bloomed tentative, our lives stitching across states. Me freelancing for progressive brands, him filing incorporations for his firm. Sarah threw a not-quite wedding bash in the village, toasts flowing with inside jokes and drag performances by Tomas. Claire even flying in with her kid, who toddled straight to us demanding story time. Under fairy lights strung like constellations, Jordan pulled me aside, compass roses aligning as he whispered, "No more vanishing. We're each other's map." I nodded, the hook that started it all. The rain, the call, the flight, fading into prologue. In the end, Love wasn't the absence of betrayal or prejudice, but the choice to navigate them, hand in hand. We weren't fixed, not perfectly. Arguments flared over relocation logistics. Old insecurities whispered in quiet moments. But growth rooted deep, friendships a sturdy lattice, family evolving in fits and starts. Omaha's flat horizon met New York's jagged one in our shared dreams, a life charted not by fear, but by the unyielding pull toward home.